The Awakening. The vast expanse of space stretched out before Captain Ilara Chen as she gazed through the view screen of her small scout ship, the Stargazer. Debris floated silently in the void, remnants of a long-forgotten battle. But it wasn't the debris that held her attention. It was what lay beyond. "Holy shit," breathed her co-pilot, Marcus Reeves. "Is that what I think it is?" Ilara nodded, her eyes wide with disbelief. "It's the Lost Fleet." Before them, barely visible in the dim light of a distant star, floated hundreds of massive warships. Their hulls were scared and pitted, testimony to the centuries they'd spent drifting in this forgotten corner of space. But despite their worn appearance, there was no mistaking their origin. These were human ships, relics of Earth's golden age of space exploration. "I can't believe we actually found them," Marcus said, his voice filled with awe. The Armada of Antiquity. They'd been missing for over 500 years. Ilara's mind raced. The fleet before them was legendary, said to have been Earth's mightiest armada before it mysteriously vanished during humanity's first interstellar war. Its disappearance had marked the beginning of Earth's decline as a galactic power. "We need to report this immediately," Ilara said, reaching for the comm panel. But before she could activate it, alarms blared throughout the Stargazer. Marcus's hands flew over his console. Multiple ships just dropped out of FTL. "They're not ours." Ilara's blood ran cold as she saw the newcomers. Their ships were sleek and predatory, gleaming with an otherworldly energy that screamed of advanced technology. "Valkyrie," she whispered. The Valkyrie were humanity's greatest threat, an expansionist alien empire that had been steadily conquering human colonies for the past decade. Earth's remaining forces were no match for their superior technology and numbers. "They must have detected the energy signature of the old fleet," Marcus said, his voice tight with fear. "What do we do, Captain?" Ilara's mind raced. They couldn't let the Valkyrie get their hands on the ancient fleet. Even if the ships were no longer functional, the technology they contained could tip the balance of power irreversibly in the aliens' favor. "We hide," she decided. "Power down all non-essential systems. Let's hope they haven't spotted us yet." The Stargazer went dark, drifting silently among the debris as the Valkyrie ships approached the ancient fleet. Ilara and Marcus watched in tense silence as the alien vessels began to scan the derelict human ships. "Look at the size of that thing," Marcus whispered, pointing to a massive Valkyrie dreadnought that dwarfed even the largest of the human relics. Ilara nodded grimly. The disparity in technology was painfully apparent. The ancient human fleet, impressive as it had once been, looked like children's toys next to the Valkyrie warships. Suddenly, a crackling voice filled the Stargazer's cockpit, broadcasting on an open frequency. Pathetic, the alien voice sneered in accented English. "Is this the best the humans could produce? No wonder they fell so easily." Ilara's fists clenched as she listened to the Valkyrie commander mock humanity's past glory. But there was nothing she could do without revealing their presence. "These relics are useless," the Valkyrie continued. "Destroy them. We'll use this sector to stage our final assault on Earth." Ilara's heart sank as she watched the Valkyrie ships power up their weapons. Centuries of human history were about to be erased, and with them, perhaps humanity's last hope of survival. But just as the first Valkyrie ship fired, something extraordinary happened. The nearest human dreadnought, a behemoth easily a kilometer long, suddenly lit up. Energy coursed through its hull, and before the Valkyrie blast could connect, a shimmering energy shield sprang to life around the ancient vessel. "Impossible." The Valkyrie commander's voice boomed over the comm. "How can these relics still function?" Ilara and Marcus watched in amazement as more and more of the old fleet came to life. Lights flickered on, engines hummed with power, and weapon systems charged up. It was as if the alien threat had awakened the sleeping giants from their centuries-long slumber. "They must have some kind of automated defense system," Marcus said, his voice filled with excitement. one that activates when the ships are threatened. Ilara nodded, a spark of hope igniting in her chest. And if the weapons still work? As if in answer to her unspoken thought, the reactivated human dreadnought fired. A lance of energy, more powerful than anything Ilara had ever seen, lashed out and struck the Valkyrie flagship. The alien ship's shields buckled and failed, and a second shot tore it clean in half. The Valkyrie fleet scrambled to respond, but they were caught off guard. More of the human ships joined the battle, their ancient but incredibly powerful weapons cutting through the Valkyrie defenses like they were tissue paper. "It's a massacre," Marcus whispered as they watched the one-sided battle unfold. Ilara nodded, her mind racing with the implications of what they were witnessing. "This changes everything. If we can reactivate these ships, learn to control them, we might have a chance against the Valkyrie," Marcus finished. As the last of the Valkyrie ships fell or fled, an eerie silence settled over the battlefield. The ancient human fleet, now fully awakened, floated serenely in space, awaiting further instructions. Ilara took a deep breath and powered up the Stargazer systems. "Open a channel to Earth Command," she ordered. "Priority 1. As Marcus complied, Ilara stared out at the fleet that had just turned the tide of the war in a matter of minutes. She knew that the real battle was just beginning. They would need to board these ships, learn their secrets, and prepare them for the coming war. But for the first time in years, Ilara felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. Humanity had been on the brink of extinction, pushed to the edge by a technologically superior foe. Now, the playing field had been leveled. As the comm channel crackled to life, and she prepared to deliver her world-changing report, Ilara allowed herself a small smile. The Valkyrie had mocked humanity's past, but they had unwittingly awakened a sleeping giant. And now, humanity would show the galaxy exactly what it was capable of. The ancient fleet hung in space, a testament to human ingenuity and determination. The awakening had begun, and with it, a new chapter in human history was about to be written. Rising from the ashes. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. Earth Command, initially skeptical of Ilara's report, quickly mobilized every available resource once the magnitude of the discovery became clear. Ships from across human space converged on the sector, bringing with them the best engineers, scientists, and soldiers humanity had to offer. Ilara found herself at the center of it all, coordinating the massive undertaking from the bridge of the UES Horizon, the most advanced ship in Earth's current fleet. Yet even the Horizon seemed primitive compared to the ancient behemoths they were trying to revive. "Report, Dr. Steen," Ilara called out to the chief scientist, who was hunched over a console, dark circles under her eyes testament to days of non-stop work. Dr. Stein looked up, her face a mix of frustration and wonder. "It's incredible, Captain. The technology in these ships is centuries ahead of our own. It's like they're from an alternate timeline where humanity never lost its edge." Marcus, now serving as Ilara's XO, frowned. "But can we get them fully operational?" Dr. Stein sighed. "That's the problem. We can activate most systems, but piloting these ships requires a neural interface we don't fully understand. It's like they were designed to be crewed by posthumans or AIs." Ilara's brow furrowed. Earth had banned true AI centuries ago, after a catastrophic war that had nearly wiped out humanity. The idea that these ships might require AI to function was troubling. Before she could respond, alarms blared across the horizon. Multiple Valkyrie signatures detected, the tactical officer shouted. "They'll be here in minutes." Ilara's mind raced. They weren't ready. Most of the ancient fleet was still dormant, and they had no way to control the few ships they had managed to partially activate. "Evacuate all non-essential personnel to the horizon," she ordered. "Prepare for emergency FTL jump." But even as she gave the order, Ilara knew it was hopeless. The Valkyrie fleet that appeared on their scanners was massive, far larger than the force that had been destroyed days earlier. They must have realized the threat the ancient fleet posed and committed everything to destroying it. As the crew scrambled to comply with her orders, Ilara felt a strange pull. Almost in a trance, she found herself walking towards the airlock. "Captain, what are you doing?" Marcus called after her, alarm in his voice. Ilara couldn't explain it. She just knew she had to get to the ancient flagship. "Keep evacuating the civilians," she called back. "I'll buy you some time." Ignoring Marcus's protests, Ilara cycled through the airlock and used her suit's thrusters to propel herself towards the massive dreadnought that had first awakened days ago. As she approached, a hatch opened as if expecting her. The moment Ilara stepped inside the ancient ship, lights flickered to life around her. She made her way to what she assumed was the bridge, guided by an instinct she couldn't explain. The bridge was unlike anything she had ever seen. There were no traditional controls, just a single chair in the center, bristling with neural interfaces. Without hesitation, Ilara sat down. The moment the interfaces connected, Ilara's world exploded. Her consciousness expanded, suddenly encompassing the entire ship. She could feel every system, every weapon, as if they were extensions of her own body. A presence brushed against her mind. Not AI, she realized, but something more. The accumulated knowledge and experience of centuries of commanders, preserved in the ship's memory banks. "Welcome, Captain," a voice echoed in her mind. "We've been waiting for you." There was no time for questions. The Valkyrie fleet had arrived, their weapons powering up to destroy the ancient human ships. But Ilara was ready. With a thought, she brought the dreadnought's weapons online. Energy lanced out, far more powerful than what they had witnessed before. Valkyrie ships crumbled under the assault, their advanced shields useless against weapons they couldn't comprehend. Yet the Valkyrie kept coming. For every ship Ilara destroyed, 2 more took its place. She was a force of nature, but she was only one ship against an armada. Just as it seemed she would be overwhelmed, Ilara felt new presences joining her in the neural network. Across the fleet, other human officers had found their way to the command chairs of the ancient ships. Together, they formed a telepathic link, coordinating their actions with a speed and precision that no conventional fleet could match. The tide of battle turned. The awakened human fleet moved with perfect synchronization, their weapons blazing. Valkyrie ships fell by the dozens, then by the hundreds. In the space of an hour, the entire Valkyrie armada was reduced to floating debris. The sector was silent once more, the ancient human fleet hovering protectively around the horizon, and the other modern ships. As Ilara disconnected from the neural interface, she felt the weight of centuries settling on her shoulders. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. The Valkyrie would be back, and in greater numbers. But now, humanity had a fighting chance. They had warships that could go toe-to-toe with the best the Valkyrie could field. More importantly, they had hope. As she made her way back to the horizon, Ilara's mind was already racing with plans. They needed to analyze this technology, reproduce it if possible. They needed to train more neural interface pilots, and they needed to take the fight to the Valkyrie before they could regroup. The crew of the Horizon cheered as Ilara stepped onto the bridge. She saw awe in their eyes and a renewed determination. They had witnessed the seemingly impossible, and it had rekindled their fighting spirit. "Orders, Captain?" Marcus asked, a grin on his face. Ilara looked out at the ancient fleet, now fully awakened and humming with power, a fleet that represented humanity's past glory and future hope. "Set course for Earth," she said, her voice firm with resolve. "It's time to rally humanity. The counterattack begins now." As the Horizon and the ancient fleet prepared to jump to FTL, Ilara felt a sense of destiny. Humanity had been given a second chance, a chance to reclaim its place among the stars, and she was determined not to waste it. The sleeping giants had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same. The counterattack. The return to Earth was nothing short of triumphant. As the ancient fleet dropped out of FTL in high orbit, the planet below erupted in celebration. Centuries of fear and hopelessness were swept away in an instant, replaced by a surge of pride and determination. But Ilara knew the real work was just beginning. In the weeks that followed, Earth became a hive of activity. The ancient ships were carefully studied, their secrets slowly unraveled. Shipyards that had been dormant for decades roared back to life, retooled to produce the advanced technology found in the recovered fleet. Ilara found herself at the center of it all, working tirelessly alongside Dr. Steen and a team of the brightest minds humanity had to offer. The neural interface technology proved to be the key to unlocking the full potential of the ancient ships. It's not just a control system, Dr. Steen explained during one of their briefings. It's a bridge between human consciousness and machine efficiency. With proper training, a single pilot can operate an entire dreadnought as if it were an extension of their own body. The implications were staggering, but there was a catch. Not everyone is compatible, Ilara pointed out. We've tested thousands of candidates, but only a small percentage can form a stable neural link. It was a problem they were still struggling to solve, but they didn't have the luxury of time. Intelligence reports indicated that the Valkyrie were regrouping, preparing for a massive counteroffensive. 3 months after their return to Earth, Ilara found herself standing before the United Earth Council, presenting their battle plan. The Valkyrie expect us to stay on the defensive, she explained, gesturing to the holographic star map. They think we'll use the ancient fleet to fortify our remaining colonies. Instead, we're going to take the fight to them. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the council chamber. Ilara continued, her voice firm with conviction. We've identified a key Valkyrie supply depot in the Arcturus system. It's heavily defended, but with our new ships, we can strike hard and fast. Destroying it will cripple their ability to launch large-scale operations for months, maybe years. There was a moment of tense silence as the council members exchanged glances. Then the president stood. "You have your green light, Captain Chen," she said. "Godspeed, and give them hell." The next day, Ilara stood on the bridge of the ancient dreadnought she had come to think of as her own. They had named it the Phoenix, a fitting symbol for humanity's rebirth from the ashes of near defeat. Around her, a fleet of 20 ships prepared for the jump to Arcturus. 5 were from the ancient fleet, crewed by the handful of compatible pilots they had managed to train. The rest were modern vessels, upgraded with as much recovered technology as possible. "All ships report ready, Captain," Marcus said from his position at tactical. Ilara nodded, settling into the neural interface chair. As the familiar rush of connection washed over her, she gave the command. "All ships, initiate FTL jump." The journey to Arcturus took mere hours, a testament to the advanced propulsion systems of the ancient ships. They dropped out of FTL on the edge of the system, immediately activating their stealth systems, another piece of technology that had been reverse-engineered from the Phoenix. "Scans complete," Marcus reported, confirming heavy Valkyrie presence, multiple defensive platforms, a small fleet in orbit, and "Captain, you need to see this." A hologram sprang to life in the center of the bridge, showing a massive structure orbiting Arcturus IV. It was like nothing Ilara had ever seen, a vast, ring-shaped construct that dwarfed even the largest ships in orbit around it. "What is that?" Ilara breathed. Dr. Steen, who had insisted on joining the mission, leaned forward to study the hologram. "If I had to guess," she said slowly, "I'd say it's a shipyard, one capable of producing ships on a scale we've never seen before." The implications were chilling. If the Valkyrie managed to bring that shipyard online, they could churn out enough ships to overwhelm even the ancient fleet. "Change of plans," Ilara said, her mind racing. "That shipyard is our primary target. All ships, prepare for combat. We go in hot." The human fleet dropped their stealth fields and charged into the system. The Valkyrie, caught completely off guard, scrambled to respond. What followed was a battle unlike anything in recorded history. The ancient ships moved with impossible grace, their weapons tearing through Valkyrie defenses like paper. Ilara, linked with the Phoenix, felt like a goddess of war, directing the flow of battle with mere thoughts. But the Valkyrie fought back with desperate ferocity. Swarms of fighters filled space, while their capital ships unleashed barrages that would have annihilated any conventional fleet. Ilara gritted her teeth as the Phoenix shuddered under a particularly heavy assault. Status report. Shields at 60%, Marcus called out. 2 of our modern ships have taken heavy damage. The Charleston is gone. Ilara felt a pang of grief for the lost crew, but there was no time for mourning. They were committed now. Retreat was not an option. All ships, focus fire on that shipyard, she commanded. We take it out, no matter the cost. The battle raged on, a desperate race against time. Ilara knew that every minute they fought increased the chance of Valkyrie reinforcements arriving. Just when it seemed they might be overwhelmed, Dr. Stain's voice cut through the chaos of battle. Captain, I've analyzed the shipyard structure. There's a weak point in its power distribution network. A concentrated strike there could cause a chain reaction, destroying the entire facility. It was the opportunity they needed. Ilara reached out through the neural net, coordinating with the other ancient ships. In perfect synchronization, they unleashed a barrage of fire at the point Dr. Stain had identified. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a blinding flash lit up the system. The shipyard cracked, then shattered, the explosion taking out half the remaining Valkyrie fleet with it. In the stunned silence that followed, Ilara gave the order to mop up the remaining enemy forces. Within an hour, the Arcturus system was under human control. As the adrenaline of battle faded, Ilara disconnected from the neural interface, feeling the weight of command settle heavily on her shoulders. They had won a great victory, but at a heavy cost, and she knew this was only the beginning. Set course for Earth, she ordered, her voice weary but determined. We need to report on what we've learned and prepare for what comes next. As the fleet jumped to FTL, Ilara stared out at the stars streaking past. They had struck a mighty blow against the Valkyrie, but she knew their enemy wouldn't take this defeat lying down. The real war, she realized, was just beginning. But for the first time in a long time, humanity was ready to face it head-on. Turning the tide. The victory at Arcturus marked a turning point in the war. For the first time in decades, the Valkyrie were on the defensive, scrambling to fortify their positions as humanity began to reclaim its lost territories. But with each victory, new challenges emerged. As Ilara stood before the United Earth Council once again, she could see the mixture of hope and concern on their faces. The good news, she began, is that we've pushed the Valkyrie back to their core systems. The bad news is that they're dug in deep, and our intelligence suggests they're working on something big. She gestured to a holographic display, showing a massive energy signature detected near the Valkyrie homeworld. We don't know what this is, but given its scale, it can't be anything good. Ilara continued. We need to find out what they're planning and stop it before it's too late. The council murmured among themselves before the president spoke up. What do you propose, Captain Chen? Ilara took a deep breath. What she was about to suggest was risky, potentially even suicidal. But she saw no other choice. We need to send a small team deep into Valkyrie space, she said. A covert mission to gather intelligence, and, if possible, sabotage whatever they're building. I volunteer to lead this mission myself. The council chamber erupted in protests. Ilara was too valuable, they argued. The Phoenix and the other ancient ships were humanity's best defense. They couldn't risk losing her. But Ilara stood firm. The neural interface gives us an advantage the Valkyrie can't match, she explained. A small team, in a single ancient ship, has the best chance of slipping past their defenses undetected, and no one understands these ships better than I do. After hours of debate, the council finally agreed. Ilara would leave a small team into the heart of Valkyrie territory, while the rest of the fleet continued to push the offensive under Marcus's command. 2 weeks later, Ilara stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, preparing for what might be her final mission. Her team was small but elite. Dr. Steen, whose understanding of Valkyrie technology had proven invaluable. Lieutenant Zara Vega, an ace pilot and infiltration specialist, and Sergeant Dex Hawkins, a grizzled veteran of a dozen battles against the Valkyrie. As they prepared to jump to FTL, Ilara felt a mix of anticipation and dread. They were diving into the unknown, with the fate of humanity resting on their shoulders. The journey took several days, even with the Phoenix's advanced drive. They dropped out of FTL on the edge of the Valkyrie home system, immediately activating their most advanced stealth systems. What they saw took their breath away. The Valkyrie homeworld was surrounded by a vast network of orbital platforms, each pulsing with energy. At the center of it all was a structure that dwarfed even the shipyard they had destroyed at Arcturus. "My God," Dr. Stein whispered, her eyes wide as she studied the readings. It's a planetary shield generator. If they activate that, nothing we have could break through. They could hold out for centuries." Ilara's mind raced. If the Valkyrie managed to complete this project, the war would effectively be over. Humanity might win battles, might even reclaim all its lost territory, but they would never be able to strike at the heart of Valkyrie power. "We need to get closer," Ilara decided. "Find a way to shut that thing down." They maneuvered carefully through the Valkyrie defenses, the Phoenix's stealth systems pushed to their limits. As they approached one of the orbital platforms, Ilara made a startling discovery. "These energy readings," she said, frowning at the data streaming through her neural link. "They're familiar somehow." Dr. Stein leaned in to look, her eyes widening in shock. "That's impossible," she breathed. "This technology, it's human in origin." Advanced, yes, but definitely human. The implications were staggering. How had the Valkyrie obtained human technology so advanced it rivaled even the ancient fleet? As they pondered this mystery, an alert flashed through Ilara's neural link. They had been detected. Alarms blared as Valkyrie ships converged on their position. Ilara's hands flew over the controls, guiding the Phoenix through a series of evasive maneuvers that would have been impossible for any conventional ship. "We need to land," Zara shouted over the chaos. "If we can get to the central control station, we might be able to sabotage the entire network." It was a desperate plan, but they were out of options. Ilara plotted a course for the massive central platform, dodging enemy fire as they went. The landing was rough, the Phoenix taking heavy damage as they crashed onto the platform's surface. As emergency systems kicked in to seal hull breaches, Ilara made a quick decision. "Zara, Dex, you're with me," she ordered. "Dr. Steen, stay with the ship. Keep our exit route clear and see if you can hack into their systems from here." They exited the ship in their combat suits, immediately coming under fire from Valkyrie security forces. Ilara had never felt so exposed, so vulnerable without the Phoenix's systems at her mental fingertips. They fought their way through winding corridors, Zora's infiltration skills, and Dex's combat experience proving invaluable. Finally, they reached what appeared to be the main control room. As Ilara worked to override the security systems, she felt a presence behind her. She spun around, weapon raised, only to freeze in shock. Standing before her was a human man, dressed in the uniform of an Earth Fleet admiral. But it was a uniform that hadn't been used in centuries. "Welcome, Captain Chen," the man said, a sad smile on his face. "We've been expecting you." Ilara's mind reeled. Who was this man? How did he know her name? And what was he doing here, working with humanity's greatest enemy? As alarms blared and the sounds of battle echoed in the distance, Ilara realized that the answers to these questions might change everything they thought they knew about the war, about the Valkyrie, and about humanity's own history. The tide of war was about to turn once again, but in a direction no one could have predicted. Humanity's triumph. Ilara's mind raced as she stared at the man before her, an Earth Fleet admiral, here in the heart of Valkyrie territory. It seemed impossible. "Who are you?" she demanded, her weapon still raised. "What is all this?" The man's smile faded, replaced by a look of profound weariness. "My name is Admiral Thomas Brennan, and this," he gestured around them, "is the culmination of a plan set in motion over 500 years ago." Before Ilara could respond, Zora's voice crackled over the comm. "Captain, we've got incoming. Lots of incoming." Brennan held up a hand. "Please, there's no need for further violence. I can explain everything, but we don't have much time." Despite her instincts screaming at her to fight, Ilara lowered her weapon. "Talk fast," she growled. Brennan nodded, activating a holographic display. 500 years ago, humanity was on the brink of destroying itself. Our AIs had turned against us, our colonies were in revolt, and we were consuming resources faster than we could replenish them. A group of us realized that humanity needed an external threat to unite against if it was to survive. Ilara's eyes widened as understanding dawned. "The Valkyrie. They're not real." "Oh, they're real," Brennan said grimly. "But they're not aliens. They're humans, descendants of those who volunteered for this grand deception. We used advanced genetic engineering to alter their appearance, to make them truly alien." The implications were staggering. The war that had defined humanity for generations was nothing but an elaborate hoax. "But why?" Ilara asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Why go to such extremes?" Brennan's eyes were filled with a mixture of pride and sorrow. "Because it worked. Look at what humanity has achieved in the face of this threat. We've united as never before. We've made technological leaps that would have taken millennia under normal circumstances. We've become stronger, more resilient." Ilara's mind was reeling, but she forced herself to focus. The ancient fleet, the neural interfaces, all part of the plan, Brennan confirmed. "We knew that eventually, humanity would need to rediscover its strength. The fleet was our failsafe, a way to ensure that when the time came, humanity would have the tools it needed to defeat the Valkyrie." A surge of anger washed over Ilara. "Do you have any idea how many people have died in this war? How much suffering you've caused?" Brennan's face fell. "More than you can imagine. And we've borne that burden for centuries. But now, finally, we can bring this to an end." Before Ilara could respond, the facility shook violently. Alarms blared as Dex's voice came over the comm. "Captain, the fleet's here. They're engaging the Valkyrie forces." Brennan's eyes widened in panic. "No, they can't. If they destroy the shield generator, all of this will have been for nothing." Ilara made a split-second decision. She opened a channel to the Phoenix. "Dr. Steen, I need you to broadcast everything we've learned to the entire fleet. Both fleets." As Dr. Steen acknowledged the order, Ilara turned back to Brennan. "You wanted to unite humanity. Well, now's your chance. Help me stop this war, once and for all." For a moment, Brennan hesitated. Then, with a nod, he moved to the control console. "I'm deactivating the Valkyrie fleet's weapons. It's time for the truth to come out." As Brennan worked, Ilara opened a channel to both fleets. Her voice rang out across space, heard by human and Valkyrie alike. "This is Captain Ilara Chen. I'm ordering all ships to cease fire immediately. The war is over. There are no aliens. We've all been pawns in a game that's gone on far too long. But now we have a chance to truly unite, not as separate species, but as one human race." For a moment, there was silence. Then, slowly, weapons powered down. Ships stopped their attack runs. In the days that followed, the full truth was revealed to both sides. There was anger, confusion, and grief. But there was also relief and a growing sense of wonder at what they had achieved together, albeit under false pretenses. The Valkyrie, their alien features restored to human form, were welcomed back into the fold of humanity. The advanced technology developed for the war was repurposed for peaceful expansion and exploration. And Ilara found herself at the center of it all, tasked with leading humanity into a new era of unity and discovery. As she stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, now the flagship of a combined human fleet preparing to explore beyond the boundaries of known space, Ilara reflected on the long, strange journey that had brought them to this point. They had faced extinction, fought a war against an enemy that wasn't real, and in the process had become something greater than they had ever been before. As the fleet prepared to jump into the unknown, Ilara felt a sense of excitement and hope that she hadn't experienced since she first joined the Earth fleet. "All ships report ready, Captain," Marcus said from his position at tactical. Ilara nodded, settling into the neural interface chair. As the familiar rush of connection washed over her, she gave the command that would start the next chapter of human history. "All ships, initiate FTL jump. Let's see what's out there." As the stars streaked past, Ilara couldn't help but smile. They had overcome so much, had nearly destroyed themselves in the process. But in the end, humanity had triumphed not through force of arms, but through the very qualities that made them human. Adaptability, ingenuity, and the capacity to forgive and unite in the face of adversity. The war was over. The deception was ended. And now, united and stronger than ever, humanity was ready to face whatever the universe had in store for them. As the Phoenix led the fleet into the vast unknown, Ilara felt a profound sense of pride and hope. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew that humanity would face them together. And that, she realized, was the greatest triumph of all.